family? Welcome to the EXO-MEDIA podcast. Actually, hold up, let's rewind that shit back. This is not the EXO-MEDIA podcast. This is our heated seat podcast. Heated seat discussions, unfiltered. You know, we are about to put some flames in this seat. You know, I mean, like if people aren't leaving this place sweating, I don't know. It's too light. Alright. So we about to get the stuff ready, right? So this is the first episode of the heated seat discussion, and for today we're about to talk about mainstream media, and a lot has been going on. I don't know if y'all have been, you know, up to date with stuff like that. When was the last time y'all tuned into the news?
The last time I watched the news was like yesterday.
Yesterday.
But they were like talking about like a whole bunch of different issues like current affairs and so forth with regard to like what's going down in KZN. The whole taxi violence and like the death toll and everything like that. So that's really what I thought when I was watching the news just yesterday.
But do you watch it like on a daily, bro? Or
I don't really watch it on a daily basis, but I catch the news one way or another, if you understand.
Nah, I get you. Wait, do you have like a specific platform that like you go and look for?
There's a few platforms that I use. Obviously, like I said, I watch the news, and then there's our best friend Twitter, and then of course I have the News 24 app on my phone, so it shouldn't be notifications or anything.
Facts.
So I do get what's going on most of the time.
Flip side.
Yeah, I don't know. Like for me, like you said, Twitter's got me on block. You know. I don't. There's a quote by what's his name, Samuel Jackson, I think, where he said, "If you watch the news, you're misinformed. If you don't watch it, you're uninformed." You know. So it's finding a balance of like trying to watch the news, but at the same time not really looking at it too much. You know.
I get what you mean. Because like the history of news in general, like it had a lot of propaganda. You know.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to like understand what's being shown and all that stuff. Alright, so
it was by Denzel Washington, man.
Was it Denzel?
Yeah, Denzel.
I think I've heard it before. But anyways, let's get straight to it. So, what I define as mainstream media, right? Like, Anonymous just mentioned, it's your News 24, right? It's the biggest media companies out there. You know, like they're the first to release the news, and of course, I mean, like Twitter's the social media app where like other people can put you on what's going on around the world. You know, but in terms of mainstream media, you know. What I see it as, it's basically it's a large organization. You know, it provides the public news to like the mass. You know, and it's mainstream. It's more mainstream than alternative. You know that stuff. So I wanted to ask y'all like, what do you guys define as mainstream media? And do you like and when you define it, do you define it in a way that does it have a purpose? Is it for the people or is there an agenda behind it?
Oh, you want me to go first? Oh, I can go first. For me, I describe it as the gatekeepers of information. That's what I'd say. So whether these are your social media platforms or your mainstream medias like your news, such as like you mentioned before, News 24, your SABCs, various organizations that distribute information, you know, in high volumes to the masses, as you mentioned before, you know, and keep us informed. And of course, there's a purpose, which is to inform people of what it is that is going on, what it means for you as a citizen of this country. That's why I mentioned that it's the gatekeepers. These organizations are put in place to serve this purpose. You know what I mean? In this what we call a democracy. So that it functions, it needs such organizations too. But you know.
So wait, what do you mean? Like, as in it for it to function, we need to have like a large organization?
I mean, now we've got things that are happening at a high rate because that's just the country. We call that an economy, and various levels of the economy, whether it's people getting transported to work or from work, where they go work, what that building does, and how it does it, you know, all sorts of economic issues that take place. And we need to know what's happening in our country, because if we don't know, we get taken advantage of. Do you understand what I mean? We need to know that the unemployment rate is rising. We need to know that the youth is not employed. We need to know that it was Natal, we need to know these things, because if we don't, they take advantage of it. That's what I'll say from my side.
So do you think that we are like, how can I put this? Because like you just mentioned now, right? If we don't know, it's likely that we could be taken advantage of.
Yes.
So does mainstream media make sure that we do know enough?
I think first, let's just start with like what is mainstream media from my perspective, right? From my perspective, mainstream media, it's in the word, right? So media would have to do with what you give out to the people, whether it be music, information, news, whatever.
Like
Right?
different types of media.
But then the problem comes with saying mainstream. So now, what is mainstream? What is trending? So when it comes like with the news, it's the same thing. What is trending for the news to give out to people? Because you must remember, the news are just organizations like corporates. They are owned by people, right? Let's just not be oblivious and news corporations are owned by people, right? So it's like what they give you is what they want you to know. It might not be the full story. For example, what happened in KZN and what's been happening in South Africa. They'll show people in the world the videos of black people looting, which is true, but then they won't show the other videos where black people are stopping people from looting. You see, so it's one of those things that what are you trying to show people? Because with information is key. It mustn't do selective information sharing. It must be a whole thing. Because if you're trying to show the current affairs of South Africa, show the current affairs. Show the start, okay, they looted, okay, that's fine. Show black people stopping the loot. Then show that actually as a people, we don't want to. We're only looting because people haven't had jobs for how long? 460 days, 480 days. So people are starving now. What do you expect people to do? Yeah.
So do you think that, like you just said now, that they need to show the full picture of it?
Yeah.
Right? So would you say there's an agenda if it's not the whole picture being shown?
Of course.
You want to start first?
I'll go for it.
Yeah.
I mean, these organizations, we know that they are run by the government who's in charge of our country, right? So of course, just like every other government department, they have an agenda of what it is that they do and how they're going to do it. So of course there's an agenda. Now, whether that agenda is for the people or not for the people, that's what platforms like this are for. It's for debate, it's for discussion.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, how I see it is that, look man, you should take your life into your own hands and make the decisions that are going to equip you to live a life where you are comfortable.
But is that possible if like you said, like without the information you need? You know, like you put in weeks.
But this information that you need is there. You know, that's one thing I've also realized. We call it mainstream media, but we limit it to the news.
Yeah.
It's not just the news.
There's other sources.
Twitter is mainstream media. Instagram is mainstream media. Snapchat is mainstream media. There's various social platforms where various topics are discussed and information is created and released and distributed. But now, do you have the time of day to go and look for what it is that you need? Or are you too busy doing what you need to do? You know what I'm saying?
But I feel like it's a twist to it because it's like it's fine for someone who's informed that there's all those other resources who has the capabilities to go on Twitter, on Instagram. Now there's other people who don't have the resources in your case lands or in your Eastern Capes, in Bobos, where they have like a radio and they don't have internet service. So now the radio and the media that they hear is their source of information. And you must remember with information, people search it, it's either they're looking for something, they know what they're looking for, or they're just trying to get something that they've searched before, right? So with all these things, when you search for something, it becomes important. Where you search it becomes important. Who gives you the information becomes important, because sometimes it's like history. I can write it from my perspective. If me and you fight right now, man, and then we go out and everybody saw the fight in the room, I can change the narrative however I want, as long as the people in the room don't speak. Because history is written by the victor, it's all the same thing. So if someone wants to make sure that our people live a certain way, they'll make sure that the primary source of information, the source that everyone has, no matter the circumstance, has a certain goal or has a certain message in it. Now the problem then becomes, how do you spread that information to people without that? Without the resources? Those are the people who also run the country, because they also vote. So it's also important for them to also have the sources of information. Like for an example, if for on radio they had a section where they rate the Twitter streets, and they're like, okay, this is what people are saying on Twitter, this is what's trending, and you read the whole thing out properly to people. You don't see like and say, okay, this tweet is nice because it speaks nicely about our radio station. It's got our hashtag of the radio station. Is it stuff like that?
Can I ask? Don't you think that's what like the news usually do? Like, because the first thing I notice when I open up like a news channel, like even if it's American, like CNN or South African, the first other thing okay, this happened this day, or okay, we're in a pandemic and stuff like that. Like they don't say like, okay, wait, what's going on? Where's this pandemic? They just like put it straight out there, and then of course that's gonna trigger you the first time you see it. You get me? And then it's up to you to whether be like, okay, we're in a pandemic. Okay, what is this pandemic? COVID, COVID.
Like it's like, how can I say this? The first thing is clickbait. Everything is like clickbait. What will make people to click on this article, on this feed or whatever? They won't give you the whole thing and say, okay, COVID started here, Wuhan, this is the plan of how we're going to combat it. Even now, I don't think any solid government has a way forward with it. If you see in Europe right now, everyone's got vaccinated and everything's okay, right? But give it a few months, we don't even know how this vaccine will treat our bodies, honestly. They're just saying it will work because they've shown us in movies where they say vaccines work, but we don't even really know how it will work on our bodies for us to even take it, because there's not enough years of research to even show that it will work.
Given the information.
Yeah, given the information we have, it doesn't even show that it's something we should take, you know?
That's a very fair point that you raised there. But since we've moved the topic towards the pandemic and everything that's going on and how
that was just to like share.
And so I just wanted to share a bit of what he was saying. Now you ask yourself, okay, we don't really know the impact about these vaccines and so forth on our bodies, but at the same time we don't know the full impact of COVID-19 itself. You know what I'm saying? So I think as human beings we've gotten to a place where we like to point fingers at who's wrong and who's right. And that never gets anything done besides us knowing who's wrong and who's right. Nothing ever got done in the first place, which is how we need to orientate our perspectives moving forward. So I do hear your point, but it's like a situation of what better could they have done? What's the best they could have done?
From what?
From what we know, and it seems as if there's no one else who can do anything better.
I would decline. There's cases in different countries where they said African medicine helps, and then those countries, what did they say? They said, no, don't sell that medicine because it hasn't gone through WHO. So now we need WHO to tell us what types of medicine works for our bodies where it has worked. So we can't say it's not there. It's just they don't allow the people. Imagine, okay, so you're saying this now. What about the president who said we don't want the vaccines in our country? Like the Haiti president before he passed away, the president of Tanzania, before he passed away. Before these guys, they said we don't want this vaccine. They said they don't want it. There was a reason they didn't want it. And what about all the doctors who've come out to say, look, vaccine sounds good, sounds great, but in the profession that we are in, we say that this vaccine right now is not good for people. There's also those doctors. If you search their names, I just forgot their names. If you search their names, they're all there saying, vaccine right now is not the best answer. We can use African medicine, dog. Like, yes, it's a problem that affects our immune system, affects all these other things. But I'd rather bet on my immune system than, honestly, with Western medicine. Because throughout history, I don't think I can trust Western medicine to fix me.
I think I get where the 2 points are coming, but I just want to add something on it, and especially on the accountability part, right? So in terms of accountability, is it possible to solve a problem without having someone to take accountability of it? Right. Now the next question.
Yes.
How?
Let's hear.
Just if you look at the way that a charity works, there are people who go out there and receive the capital that is necessary to run this organization. This organization has people who run the activities that need to be done, whereas none of them take credit.
The whole community.
It's the organization.
But now there's problems that make the charity necessary, right? For the charity to be there was problems that needed to be fixed. And the problems will always be there because they never found who causes the problems that makes these problems rise up in different places that need these charities to run every time. So it's a constant loophole of we have a problem, okay, the solution is the charity. But the problem's not really being fixed, but the charity's being raised. So how's the problem being fixed? And that's where accountability needs to say, okay, the problem is human trafficking, the problem is 1, 2, 3. Who are the people that do it?
Just to add on that, like, especially in our country, like, we hold, do you hold your government accountable? I'd actually like to ask that. For like our country, our nation, and the society that we live in, like.
It's their responsibility to take care of their end of the bargain, right? And whatever it is that bargain is
It could be
us
personal.
and up to them, because you cast the vote. You cast the vote. You went to the voting polls and you cast it, and you cast that vote in confidence of what they had said they are going to do, which is their side of the bargain. So I think they are responsible for saying or doing what they said they would do. But I'm not one person who believes in handouts. I believe that as much as we want to hold someone else accountable, whenever you point a finger, there are always 4 fingers pointing back at you. So take accountability for your life in all the facets that it is, whether it be a socio-economic level or anything else. If you're not happy with what you have, do something about it.
Okay.
Power to the people.
Power to the people. That's true, man. I get the do something by yourself stuff. But now the problem is people don't run themselves. They're run by the government, right? So either way of us putting on the blame on them, on us, there's 2 accountable sides here. It's the government and us. We are accountable for the fact that we place the votes, we put them in power. They're accountable for what? For making sure that everything they said they would do, right? Now, the point is, they failed. You asked us, have we held them responsible? And I would say no, we haven't, because if we had held them responsible, they'll be out of power by now. Like there was a quote by Nelson Mandela, he said, if the ANC does to the people what the apartheid government did to the people, then the people must do to the ANC what the ANC did to the apartheid government. So now, isn't that holding the government responsible? Because wasn't the ANC youth and the people holding the government of that time responsible, saying, you know what, this has been going on for too long, we need to stop this? Because we can't say now we're holding them responsible, but we have to wait to vote. And every time we vote, they give us lies. Then they go into parliament again, give us more lies. Then we have to vote again. When does that cycle end and say, you know what, we're tired of voting, we want someone who's serious, we want serious people, and say, that's how we hold the government responsible. Look at Mali.
A politician.
Yeah.
Like politics runs the world.
It's a chess game.
Basically.
Yeah.
You know, so is it possible to have a government without any politician? Like it's just, you know, a community that selects members that represent, you know, some qualities that they want to be in.
Yes, it is possible. Because politicians, in their nature, they have greed. It's something that grows in some of them. It's something that doesn't grow in a small percentage of them, but in the vast majority of them. In politics, we can't greed. Like you can see them, some family members, when they have tenders, when they have all these things, you see how it changes their life, right? Now, if you look at all ancient like civilizations, they didn't have like politicians per se. They had members of the community who showed traits of like he has integrity, he has humility, he's humble, he's this, he can lead a people, you know, stuff like that. When you look at traits like that, those are the things that actually can run a society. It's just that now when you have to put a degree to it takes away the other traits of a human, because anybody can go study to be a politician. Someone can be a psychopath, someone can be anything and still pass that degree. But it says nothing about their human personality of how they would run the country. They just have the knowledge to run it, not the traits to run it. And that's the problem we have.
I share a different view on what actually runs the country. I don't know, it's a well-known saying it says that money makes the world go round. So I don't think it's politicians or governments that make the world go around things, but rather money and the root of money, which is economics and industry and business, right? So these politicians, their role is to serve the interests of economics. That's why they need to be educated.
What do you mean by serving the interests? Isn't growing the economy of a country?
Yes, and the various facets of the economy, be it the human resource, the financial resource, the capital resources. It may be, all sorts of things, technologies that we need in order to develop.
But onto you saying that they try like what interest politics and interest in the economy, right? And I think if I'm not wrong, you did mention that like, okay, money makes the world go round, and politics isn't what runs the world, right? So what do you think of what happened like in history, World War I, World War II? Do you think politics and economy had, because to be honest, for the army to be militarized like that,
the politicians need to sign off.
They needed an economy.
Yeah, it's very true.
They
Very
need
true. But what are the politicians serving the interests of the economy? That's where it comes down to. Now you say this politician signed off that our armed forces are going to go to war with whoever, for the basis of the fact that, let's just call it what it is, because there's a whole economy with war. Ammunition needs to be made, that's in a factory. Guns need to be made, exported or imported, that's in a factory. That factory employs people. Those people pay tax. That tax gets used to run the army and the country. So you understand where I'm coming? If you don't have an economic system, there would be no need for politics.
Can I just say something? I hear the economics of it, right? Now the problem is right there, where politicians would rather put the importance of the economics of a country to the betterment of the country. Those are also two different things, whereas you can run a country properly, the economy will be great, like America. Everything is nice, it looks great, everyone wants to go there. But the people in itself and how it's run is not nice. The minority people are still crying. Like, the economy is great, like it's great, it works for everyone. But the people who live there aren't happy. Now that's where we need to start talking about, because that's, I feel like, what it means to run a country. Why are we running the country? Are we running to make it a first world country, whereas people in the country are not happy? Or are we trying to make it a country that's happy and economically doing good? Because those are the things we're actually talking about, where it's the beef between the people of the no-haves and the haves, and the making sure that everyone's good. Where it's not a problem where the economy is good, but then black people are still starving, black people are uneducated, people are still not getting jobs, not food and stuff like that. That's what I'm saying of how should we, that's the balance. Where do we go? Because I don't think it's in politics, I don't think it's in democracy. I think it's a new form of government. I don't think it's
a new form of government.
New form of government.
But do you think politics will still be something relevant?
Of course, it will always be relevant as long as there's economies.
Yeah.
But now that begs the question that you say that people are not happy, but happiness comes from within. As you stated, in the United States of America, one of the greatest economies in the whole wide world, right? And the minority people aren't happy. And I'll tell you why. It's because they are unable to partake in the economy at the level that they need to be happy, right? That's unfortunate. But now, do we cry and sit back and say, why am I not sitting? Rather than hating something for yourselves, by your own people, for your people, to make yourselves happy. Rather than starting gangs and holding your own people hostage, killing your own people, selling drugs to your own people, and doing exactly what the white man wants you to do.
Okay.
So I think, a lot of the time with black we don't want to own ourselves and be like, I'm black and this is what's going on, and this is not representative of who we are, and let's do something about it. But rather we sit back and say, why?
You know, like in life, you gotta view shit with perspectives. And you gotta know that you need to consider the multiple perspectives that could exist. So, do you think that it's possible for the media to be used to divide people, to divide the community, to divide the society, with the aid of politics as well? Because politics, we've noticed that it will always be one end and the other end. And with politicians, we've seen politicians do this a lot. It's either they like playing this end or this other end. Example, communism and capitalism. Although it's based on an economy, actually capitalism and communism is more based on like a global perspective. It considers economy, but there's also a political field that is played on that.
To also add on what you were saying beforehand, let me answer you first and then I'll join. So media can be used to divide the people because it, like I said from the beginning, it doesn't give a full perspective, it gives a small sample. Now, what it also doesn't say is have a self-reflection of what we just said. Go self-reflect about what we just said and then go do more research about what we just said. No. The media just gives you information and then says, because we give you this information, trust it because we gave it to you. So it brings out a problem where some people who do the research and look for information have different opinions from the people who just listen to the media 24/7, and then that already is a divide. The people who go to look for the information themselves versus for the people who just get it given to them. So it becomes a problem of, okay, who told you this information? Who are you sourcing? So now if you're going to be also always saying like, okay, News 24, if you're saying ENCN or whatever these things are, always, and you're not saying, okay, but this independent journal from here, this doctor, this one that says 1, 2, 3, that's a different story. So yes, media does divide the people because it puts the people in the state of, in its core root, it will always divide the people from the people who researched versus the people who didn't. So it will always be that thing of who researched versus who didn't. Now the people are in the divide because those have their own opinions because they've researched.
How do we bridge that gap though?
It's sharing of information. It's the sharing of information, accountability. It starts with being accountable. Now I've agreed with everything he said about black people always being accountable. My thing is, we can't honestly, fully do a full reset and just do a Chris Hani or whatever these guys or the older generation said. Let's just have our own land and then just fix ourselves. We can't have that. So we can't really have that thing of saying black people, let's be accountable, let's do this. So before we start that, we have to say, okay, we are living in a land. Let's just go back to America. In America's perspective, you must also remember this thing for an American, black African American. Remember these things then. Number one, I'm in a land that I was forced onto. This is not my language. I don't speak my language. I don't have my culture. I don't know my God. I'm just given this Christian Islam and Jew God or any other God that I can find in America. I'm just given these gods. But the God of my people, I don't have. The culture of my people, I don't have. Now, on our side, we have the spectrum of, we have the slavery, but it's different. Slavery, they took them and took them to a different land. We had something called colonization. They came here and enslaved us on our land. So now the difference is now we're like, okay, we have our culture, we have our language. We don't speak it that much, but we have it. We speak it when we want to. We have our God, we're just very afraid to go to him. How are they going to do better when you don't say, okay, let's do this? As black people, let's start things that informs the people. Let's do those things. Now the problem then becomes, we've already done those things. History has shown us we've had economic freedom with a black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. What happened to it? Set alight. Now, what I'm saying and what I always propose to black people is, when you start taking accountability, do what your Malcolm X and all those guys started thinking and saying. Start saying, okay, we want to empower ourselves, we want to make sure we are free. With the media, we have to make sure now say, We want the information. Let's go look for people who are giving us the information we need. They're very. If you need any information, just go search. Don't go on Google and search this. Search it with intentions. I want to know about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's many sites like DuckDuckGo or independent sites that unfilter searches, because like Google, it filters a lot of things. So if you search it, they'll give you the things they like. How can I say this? Like they want you to know that, so to say. Because in our course they teach you like how to take information and give it to people, right? So stuff like that, right? So now after we give the information to the people, we must then now empower the people and say, like you said, stop killing each other. Instead of taking the guns and pointing to each other, take these gangs and make them a military for your people. You see, protect your people. Now it's a different story. We're not saying disarm yourself, we're saying arm yourself.
I think I'll call on what you said about bringing information together. You see, in terms of how we could improve the media, that's what I believe in, actually. Because there's a lot of information specialists. There's probably a 60-year-old man that has a lot of information, but he does not have a way to share it, you know. And the only information that is being spread to society and global masses is the one in the mainstream. And you see mainstream. Mainstream is the journalist and whoever they bring into the panel. It ends there. You get me? Now, my favorite part about getting information from everywhere, it could be anyone. Even a homeless person, he could put you on game into some perspectives of life. So I like that perspective of actually bringing everyone together and then creating this information pool where we can all work on, okay, what do we do with this information?
It's not information that's going to change the society. Never has, never will be. It's always action. And people don't act. Create your information pool, but in order to do that, it takes action. You're going to do it? You're going to do it. Because we're talking about it, right? It's always that thing, like, and talking about being accountable. Like, if we're talking about it, as I'm asking you, are you gonna do it? And you're gonna have to be like, yeah, and then later I have to be like, did you do it? And you have to be like, here it is. And then you have to be the same person who's gonna drive the conversation into what are we gonna do about it? And the question is, are you willing to be that person? Or are you trying to solve your own issues in life and just be a human being? You know, because sometimes we think people they just dumb or they misinformed or you know what, call it whatever you want to call it. But the thing is that we live in a system. You know, the system is maybe it's not for us and so forth, but it's like that. So what do? You need to thrive within that system, no matter what it takes. And I think that's what the chat should be, not whether we should alter mainstream media, but rather create platforms where people can participate in the economy or get educated on how to participate in an economy. Because if you empower someone economically, you empower them completely. It's that conversation of teach a man to fish, you feed him for life, but give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. So we give you the information, Uti, it's like this, and now you know. And now what?
It's up to you to do.
You don't know what to do or how to do it. So I think rather empowering people in that way, teaching them what to do, how to do it.
It's not the truth that sets you free, it's the knowledge of the truth because of what it empowers you to start doing. I urge my people, look up your history, look up how to go forward. Now, how do we go forward in everything that we've spoken about right now? Right now, the best thing to do right now, we're in Corona, the best thing we could ever have, Corona. Take time, seek out the information, find people who think like you, go out and do the work.
Wrap it up. It's a wrap. Alright, thanks family, thanks, we out.
Now go.